Please like, share, and subscribe
so that we can continue to make these videos for you.
Welcome into Fire Mountain Gems and Beads. I'm Patty. I'm a jewelry designer here.
I'm Chris. I'm a photographer here.
And we are back again with another installment of 5 easy photo tips that are going to elevate your jewelry photos. And I'm very excited about the one that's coming. But let's talk about what we just did. First, we shot a glass cabochon and we learned how to do that properly so everything shows up right and the highlight shows up just right with the light position. And then we used a fill card on a dark piece and learned how to balance that out so all the nice detail shows up. It's wonderful. And now we are shooting metal, which is really important as a designer. So Chris, tell me about the problems with this photograph that you see.
Fantastic. And I hope you can start to see a pattern now about how each episode should feed into the next one. So with our fill episode, we learned how to introduce some indirect bounce onto our piece. And now we get to manipulate and use that fill card to truly define our metal as metal. So let's look at Patty's piece here. And you know what, Patty? Again, this is a pretty darn good stab at it. I think you've done pretty well. But one thing that I've noticed is just on your background choice, that is going to show us immediately what you were having struggles with, right? And that is overblown metal, or something where everything is so shiny and so white that you wouldn't even really know it was metal. We also have the complete other side of that, which Patty didn't have a problem with, where you have a hard time filling it at all and it's all black. And so you're like, what is this, black plastic? No. So with your piece here, it looks like you basically just shined your desk light directly on it. And then you kind of notice that things were kind of blowing out and maybe getting lost. And so then you put some black behind it, which was a good solution. That's what we're doing. We're problem solving, always move forward. So that's a nice way to solve that problem. But I'm looking forward to giving you the tricks to where you could actually put white behind that if you needed to.
Wonderful. Well, the struggles that I had with this, Chris, are, I'm shooting at my desk, right? And so I've got the overhead lights and I've got my light shining on there. And it feels like too much light to me. I mean, it just feels like the silver gets lost. It looks like white plastic. It doesn't look like the beautiful sterling that it is. And then one of my pet peeves is seeing all the fuzzies on the black. So we've got this black velvet display and the black velvet background. And it just looks like my dog rolled on it. We don't want it to look like that. So Chris,
right,
you took this piece and you went and you did your magic on it. How did you fix it?
I fixed it a couple of ways. And thank you for the background problem, because that'll be in the next episode. Okay, so that's perfect. How to choose the right background or the right color to make your piece pop. So I'm glad you brought that up. But one of the things I can see with your strategy here of pointing your desk light is the lack of midtones. What we ideally want in our metal pieces is to kind of have it look like the quintessential chrome bumper, okay? You've got a beautiful highlight, you've got some nice little gray midtones in the middle, and then some darker shadows, usually a third kind of a ratio, give or take. Again, these are only guidelines, rules are meant to be broken, but we want to have that beautiful mix of highlights, midtones, and shadows. And unfortunately here, all I really see is highlights and shadows or negative space and not a lot of midtones. So let's hop over to the set and let's solve these problems and shoot these earrings. Welcome to episode 3 of how to take pictures of your jewelry using your cell phone. In the previous episode, we talked about our fill card. And at the end of that episode, we had some questions about really shiny reflective metal. So here we have a pretty good, decent attempt at these shiny silver earrings. And I would say that filling isn't really a problem. If there was no fill or no light on these right now, they would actually be pretty black. And we'll see that in a moment when we move up to the real earrings up here. We've also got a black background that's kind of getting hid and everything. We also have a bit of a background. And yes, the pieces are popping off of it, but there isn't really much mid-tone or anything. These are just hit with direct light, and as a result, we've just got a lot of blown out metal that looks mostly white, and maybe even to the novice eye, someone would say, hey, well, is this just white plastic? And what tells us something is metal is almost like picturing a quintessential car bumper, chrome bumper on a 1950s cruiser. You know, when you look at a chrome bumper, you're going to see a really nice hot highlight. You're going to see some beautiful gray midtones and then into some darker shadows that have some detail. That's the ideal here. This is mostly just highlights. So we're going to try to bring in some midtones and show you how to fill your metal without reflecting in it yourself or blocking your shot with your foam core or your fill. So let's begin. So here we are on set. We have our lovely earrings right here. And the first tip I want to talk about is offsetting your camera a little bit. Thankfully, when it comes to tablets and cell phones, they have really wide lenses. And this is a time where that actually comes in to help us a little bit. So if we don't offset our camera, what will tend to happen is the camera itself could reflect in the product. We don't want that. And two, when we start bringing our fill in, we're going to end up blocking our whole shot. We don't want that as well. Okay? So by offsetting a little bit to the left, as I've done here, I'm freeing up enough space on the right to not have our camera reflect in it because it's not directly in front of our product. And now I've got enough space to introduce our fill. And another important thing about fill is it's not a binary thing. It's not a on or off, okay? When we bring it on, you can notice that if in the wider shot here, I'm slightly tilting my foam core forward. I'm tilting it back. As I tilt it back, it's bouncing more light and maybe we're getting brighter metal. And if I tilt it all the way forward, we go to black, a little bit of gray, and you're going to see that sweet spot of, again, like a really nice chrome bumper. That feels really good right there. We've got a nice third of our earrings showing nice hot highlights. We've got a third of our earrings. Let me get my hand out of there, sorry. We've got a third of our earrings showing those nice gray midtones in the flatter areas. And we've also got some black negative space, hopefully with some detail. And again, the holy trinity of metal is highlights, midtones, and shadows. And by manipulating our fill here and having enough offset, we have got all of the space to really, really get the sweet spot. And once you found it, you could use some A-clamps to affix your foam core and get your camera ready and start shooting. So let's start shooting. All right, so here we are. I've got that fill card at a nice little angle. I've got some A-clamps holding it because, like I hinted in the next episode, when capturing multiple images, the reason why is because we may be manipulating something over on the side to fill out some metal. We have a really good example of good fill versus bad fill, our good earring versus bad earring. You know, you already heard me go through the qualities of nice metal, and I think we are dead on with our right earring here. But before I capture, I want to make sure that I at least get a little bit of fill on this guy. But really look at the differences between these two earrings, and that should tell you what we're trying to do and what problems we're trying to solve and how we're trying to elevate your picture taking at home. So let me grab my other fill card here, and we're gonna come over. I've got it offset a little bit, so I have some space, and I'm gonna try not to block things. Oh, that's great. That's really good stuff. Now, as we are still on the shiny metal side of things, you might be asking yourself, what type of metal should I put on a black display and what type of metal should I put on a white display? Why does my metal get lost on my display? Well, next episode, we're going to find the perfect display for both types of metal that you may have in some of your designs. And I look forward to that.
Chris, I have to say that I have been excited about every better photo that you've taken, but this one is my favorite.
Oh, great.
You really took my photo that it looks very flat and very unattractive for a piece that's beautiful. And you really did some magic on this one where it shows up. I just would buy this on the spot.
Awesome. Good to hear. Great.
So what did you do?
Well, so what we did here is we played around a little bit with the first episode about, offsetting our camera a little bit so we don't reflect in the piece. And also by offsetting our camera a little bit, it opens up a whole bunch of space for us to be able to get a fill card in and manipulate it in various angles that will put kind of a gradient of light across it from highlight to midtone to shadow. And then the earrings are just picking that up like a mirror. So my fill card, the angle at which I have it, has enough of those midtones and shadows on the right side. And then my main light is off to the left side, giving us some nice highlights. I also like the difference between these two earrings. This one is a little bit more fill heavy, and this one is a little bit more on the highlight heavy. And it just really screams metal to me on both of them. And so that was basically it. I guess the big challenge is having the eye and knowing to look for those highlights, midtones, and shadows, and just kind of like a chef, kind of sprinkling them in there in a nice way and getting lucky sometimes, and just knowing when you're going through all your shots, that's the one. That looks like metal. Let's go.
Well, talk about elevating your photograph. This is amazing. You took a piece that looks really kind of cheesy here in the first photograph, and you made it look like the beautiful, elegant piece that it is. And I'm thrilled with the difference, and I'm thrilled with what I've learned today. So I can go forward and have another piece like this and take a beautiful photograph of it. That's just so exciting to me.
It is exciting. And the other thing that we get to do right now is we're going to preface the next episode, because we also saw that Patty was having problems with knowing what background to choose to make sure that our metal doesn't get lost. She was also having some complaints about velvet kind of being a dust magnet and a lint magnet and all of that. So we're going to take those problems into our next episode and talk about display color and background color when it comes to shooting your piece.
Thank you so much for being with us here today and this installment of the 5 easy-to-do photo tips that are going to elevate your jewelry designs. We will see you next time.
Take care.
Well, I really hope you love this series. And if you do, I really hope you like, share, and subscribe
so that we can continue to make these videos for you.